Hey everyone, this is Falsified, and this is the response to Jim aka Noelplum99 and his video God Manufactured Unfalsifiability. Now, I'm going to disagree with Jim a lot in this video, but again, it's not because I dislike him or I think he's a bad person. Actually, the opposite. I think he's a little nice guy. However, I do think that he's got his facts a little bit skewed with here, and I'm going to explain a little bit why. Now we have to. Now his argument is that people who believe God, people like me, for example, have fitted God around what we don't understand about science. For example, science is here and there's this shaped hole and we put God in there. It's basically like a rental break, which isn't necessarily how that isn't necessarily the truth. The truth is that hole was already filled by God and the sciences fitted around it. For example, if we understand that God, the quote concept of God comes from Neoplatonism, later Christianity, early Christianity, and later Judaism. Later Christianity gets a little bit paganized, with the idea of hell, with the idea of God living within our universe, for example, comes from paganism, because that's what our pagan. The Roman pagans and the Greek pagans were used to with their gods, existing within their world, especially the Egyptian pagans who believed that the pharaoh equals God. So there are different things that could be disagreed as heresy. So the current God, what is it? To understand why Jim is a little wrong here. It's something that exists outside of the universe. That's the whole thing with the Tower of Babel. Now, he talks about the Tower of Babel and how we don't really see that anymore. But the point of the Tower of Babel was not to Babel, whatever you call it. Babel was that was not a thing about talking to God. What it was actually about was a reaction to what the pagans doing. Now, the pagans thought you could run, walk, swim, whatever, to talk to the gods. For example, that their gods were reachable, were something were basically existed on the plane, on the earthly plane. But that necessarily wasn't that God was saying, you shouldn't really do that because I'm not really there in that sort of sense. I'm in a different realm to you. So I'm not in an earthly realm, I'm not in a spacely realm, I'm in a heavenly realm. So that's what we have to understand. Whether you believe that God exists or not, we have to understand that from a historical standpoint. And that's what a lot of the Old Testament was about, was a reaction to the way that pagans behaved towards the Jews. Now, to the idea that there's manufactured falsifiability, I don't know. Again, I think there's subjective falsifiability because, again, you can take philosophy, for example, and apply it to Plato, Kant, Baudrillard, Descartes, people who I admire and I do apply that logic. Now, do I think that's subjective? Not at all. I can understand that somebody is involved with someone like Engels and Nietzsche and people like that, and Grayling maybe. Again, I don't like Grayling, I think he's an idiot. But I can understand that people like that sort of stuff, and they're more convinced about than the stuff that I just talked about. Again, and I think that's what makes falsifiability a bit subjective at the moment, because scientific consensus does not work in the same way that philosophy doesn't work towards a consensus. Science does, because it wants to discover the truth about something. So usually, when there's a theory and it's gaining momentum, a lot of the other will come on board to try and test it themselves and to see if the theory holds water. With philosophy, it doesn't really work that. Someone will state an opinion and give their reasons and logic behind it, and somebody will state the reasons against it, and then somebody else will state the reasons against that, and blah 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 until infinitum. And that's probably why you won't get something like an objective falsifiability. What we will get is a falsifiability that may be more true than others. And I think at the moment, the falsifiability is in the favour of a God, but not necessarily a distinct sort of God. No, again, that falsifiability probably will change by the time I put this video up, because again, falsity changes every 5 seconds, so there may be a different. Again, when you look at it, there may be a different one. Again, that's what we have to understand. Now, is there things in science that point towards a god? I'd say there's things that I think subjectively point towards it, but again, I'm not going to put my hat on. For example, I think that the fact that dogs evolved from wolves to protect us from predators, I think points towards a friendly sort of creator who wanted things to go that certain way, because there's no sort of evolutionary benefit for that happening. Again, we didn't have anything to give to the dogs because we were trying to feed and protect ourselves at the time. I think good films, for example, I think things like, for example, I'm behind the multiverse theory and how God can fit into made the things that made that. But again, I don't think that's any way objective. So objectively, I think it's unfalsifiable in both senses, but I don't think that we can put our hat on one or the other. I think that, again, but however, philosophical, again, it depends. It depends what day of the month you choose, Jim. But to say that God is manufactured to be unfalsifiable is wrong, I'm afraid. There have been people since the end of time arguing about this. And there's a very good reason. It's not because it's unfalsifiable, it's because we can't make our damn minds up. We can't come to a consensus because philosophy doesn't. Okay? And scientifically, we're not saying, oh, well, because you don't know it has to be God. We're saying, well, from what you found out in philosophy, God fits that more than anything else does. Anyway, this has been Fun to Beat Maniac, and I'm signing off.